When it comes to indie horror games, Little Nightmares holds a special place in the genre. Action platforming, a site with dark atmosphere and a story, helpless characters, and big enemies. Reminds me of my first day in high school, to be honest. Tarsier was the original creator of Little Nightmares series, but the IP owner Bandai Namco had different vision for the Little Nightmares series, so the two companies went their separate ways, and Tarsier decided to work on a new IP called Reanimal, while Namco handed development of next Little Nightmares game over to Supermassive. Now, Little Nightmares 3 is here, and Tarsier made Reanimal in the same year. These two games are so similar but at the same time have key differences. In this video, we're going to see which game is a better continuous of this little genre. Bandai Namco is the publisher of Little Nightmares series. They like these games to stay mostly PG rather than mature horror games. But seems like Tarsier wanted the next game to be more R-rated and didn't want to play it safe. Both games are well optimized and crash-free. Reanimal is a bit harder to run because it's more open. Something that annoys me is that Reanimal supports local co-op, but Little Nightmares 3 doesn't have that. Why? Why don't you? When you think about co-op story games, being able to play that with your friend locally should be an already solved problem. Little Nightmares supports online friends feature, but there's no crossplay, which means you and your friend should play on the same platform. Couch co-op for me is important, especially in these types of games, makes the experience so different. I still remember when I was playing A Way Out with my friend, when we both were standing up during an action scene, and that tension, that thrill hits different when we were playing next to each other. It was something else, man, and you just don't get the same shared feeling when you're playing online. Supermassive is no stranger to horror genre. They've made Until Dawn and Dark Anthology series, which both are cinematic story-based games. Supermassive is kind of on the back foot here. They don't have as much experience with platformers as Tarsier does, who's been making bangers in this genre for over a decade. The success of Little Nightmares was not just an accident. Tarsier just shows how excellent they can craft a horror game with clever puzzles and interesting story. I can guess it is definitely a risky task to continue someone else's work and stay true to the franchise, especially when previous guy made a hell of a job. Supermassive accepted the challenge, and in my opinion, this is exactly where the Little Nightmares 3 kinda disappoints. I think that they've been too careful with it. The game stays loyal to usual tropes of the franchise, like chasing scenes in the air channels, hiding from the light, and this type of stuff. If you already played these games, you know what I'm talking about. Don't get me wrong, Reanimal is kind of similar, but cinematic camera perspective, those action scenes like running away with ice cream van, the details make so much different and hits harder. When you put these games side by side, you will notice that Supermassive playing hard to catch here. Using of established scenarios that worked before is not a bad thing at all, and still can do the trick, but feels it could really use some more creativity, more twists and more new stuff for people who already have played these games and are a fan of the series. Again, it's not a bad game, it's just safe for lack of better words. It's a solid 7 out of 10, nice experience. Everything that worked in previous games is here. Game is still scary and fun to play, but I think it could be better. The tone and atmosphere of both games are fairly similar. Little Nightmares 3's atmosphere and the environment is more diverse with more color palettes. Little Nightmares has several areas that diversify the environment. The characters make their way through a town and desert to a carnival. Each area has its own mood and tone. Due to the nature of the game being a side-scroller, there's not much of a depth to the environment, and it's mostly there to serve as background. On the other hand, Reanimal is mostly blue and foggy, but there are some moments when the color and tone changes and makes it so rememberable, like this. The thing about Little Nightmares is that it stays in a PG horror territory. Most enemies looks like messed up dolls, not really scary, but I guess they're scary for kids. I don't know. But Reanimal steps further into R-rated. You can see it's in sound design, enemy designs, dark themes. Deaths are more brutal and enemies are scarier. The game tackles more mature subjects like war. In my opinion, when it comes to story, both of these games did a great job captivating me till the end. There are some nice twists and turns in the story, and to be honest with you all, I didn't get any of that. I was like, the fuck just happened? Something I like about these games is that anyone might come to different conclusion about the story. Devs leave some parts open and vague. It's really difficult to keep people engaged like this, you know? Little Nightmares 3 is a completely new dialogue experience with symbolism and body language, delivering the bits and pieces of story. What surprises me is the fact that Reanimal has some dialogues. It's unusual for a Tarsier game. One of the big difference between the two is the camera. While Little Nightmares uses the same old side view as the previous games, Reanimal's camera is interestingly active and changing the perspective to suitable position. I don't think I ever seen such an active and always changing camera in this genre, changing from side to top, sometimes even third person. I like how cinematic it feels. This change in design allows the developers to really cook the map. Chasings are more complex and puzzles are more creative. The world feels it has more depth rather than just a background, although it has some caveats too. You might misstep or miscalculate some moves like jumping because of perspective and angle of camera. It really tricks your eyes. I thought I'm stupid to miss those moves, but it looks like other people had the same problem. Sometimes position change during a scene and characters might stuck on something. These are small issues, but it might happen during your playthrough. Reanimal's gameplay is cinematic and grabs you in every moment. Bosses and chasing sequences will keep you locked in from start to finish. Chasing scenes are the peak of both games. Both provide tight and breathtaking experiences where just one mistake can send you back to the last checkpoint. Little Nightmares 3 is less forgiving in that regard. Your timing and movement needs to be almost perfect. But when it comes to these sequences, Reanimal is a head and shoulder above Little Nightmares. Chasings in Reanimal are more complex. They really cook the sequences. Game always have something new to say. It feels like a movie, from runway action sequence with ice cream van till artillery puzzle, combat with birds, tied together platforming, dodging bullets of a sniper, and shooting big monster with a tank. The moment-to-moment gameplay of Reanimal is action-packed, diverse, and full of surprises. In my opinion, this is the most action and this is gonna break my heart. This is the best game they've ever made. Yes, even better than first two Little Nightmares. Because such a gameplay diversity is unseen in this genre. In an industry where even the giants of horror games often struggle to push the genre forward, Reanimal feels like a step in the right direction. Little Nightmares 3 in comparison feels a bit lacking. It's funny because nothing really wrong with the gameplay. It's the same thing, same basics as Reanimal. But creativity is the key here. Little Nightmares chasing sequences are not bad, but they are mostly the same old running away from big monsters into air channels. Camera angle is playing the key part here and keeping chasings from getting a bit one note like Little Nightmares. Tarsier obviously had more room to work in comparison to a side-scroller. The part I really liked about Little Nightmares was when a hand chasing you. That really creeps me out every time I think about it. I don't mean that Little Nightmares has nothing to show. Combat is one of my favorite parts of the game, and in some ways, I think it's more interesting than Reanimal. You will defeating enemies by working together like here. The characters have different abilities. One has a bow and another one has a wrench. Most puzzles are solved by using these two tools. The problem with Little Nightmares puzzles is that they feel like they were designed with co-op in mind. Having an AI partner in single player mode takes away the feeling of figuring out a puzzle, because AI after a few seconds does the job and solves it without giving you that much time to think. Your partner might immediately shoot the thing on the wall that should be figured out by you. It gets even worse because the majority of puzzles are not that even hard to solve. These are minor issues, but it shows that game designed for co-op first. In some areas you might find an item that shifts the world to solving puzzles. And it is interesting, but that ends there. And things like this are far few between. Reanimal doesn't have a ton of puzzles, but when it does have them, they really count. This is the golden point that I hope other developers pay more attention to. Do not add something to your game unless it works perfectly. Watering down your games just to be bigger, it doesn't work anymore. I really like the candle puzzle. At first I thought something was broken, but later when the game brought me back to it, I saw the other parts of the puzzle and I was like, oh, now I see. Lately we've been eating well from horror genre. Resident Evil 9 and Silent Hill F. Both Reanimal and Little Nightmares 3 are among the well-made horror games with perfectly crafted gameplay, creepy moments, and action chasing scenes. But Reanimal is a unique masterpiece that will be remembered among other masterpieces like Inside and Limbo. Tarsier crafted this game so well that in comparison Little Nightmares 3 become a 7 out of 10 safe bet based on the franchise's previous success. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your feedback and comments means a lot to me and really help the channel grow. Love you all. See you around.